Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 362 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is Jackson. My co-host Megan is taking the week off. She will be back next week, and we will be catching you up on all things bar exam related. We do have one big announcement to share with you today about the bar exam coming up in February of 2022. And then we're going to share with you an interview I recently conducted with one of our successful California bar takers from the February 2021 exam. This was one of only 1,151 people in the entire state of California to pass the bar exam in February. And we're very proud of Chase and what she did. And I think you're going to really enjoy that conversation. If this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. We come to you in both audio and video formats. To watch today's episode, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/362. That's the episode number, and you can watch the entire episode. If you prefer to get your podcasts via audio, you can do that as well. You can go to Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio or Spotify or Amazon Podcasts or just about any place that podcasts are syndicated. Make sure you subscribe to one of those and you will receive all of the episodes as they come out. In any event, we are glad to have you with us. We are now 52 days, as I'm recording, until the July 2021 exam. That is hard to believe. It feels like we've been going nonstop since early in 2020. And so it will be honestly nice to take a little bit of a breath after this July exam is up. But we still have a long way to go to get to that July test. And so we're glad to have you spend a bit of time with us today. Now, I told you that there was some big news in the bar exam world, and I want to briefly share that with you, and Megan and I will break that out in more detail next week. But the news is this. The National Conference of Bar Examiners announced this week that they will be giving the February 2022 bar exam only in an in-person format. That's right. There'll be no more online bar exams as far as the NCBE is concerned. Now, this is a surprising announcement on a couple of levels. One is that the examiners have been talking about how great the online testing world has been, and it's a bit of a surprise that they're now going to go back to the way things were before the COVID-19 pandemic. It's also surprising because in 2024 or 2025, when the new version of the bar exam is released, the presumption has been really pretty much all along that version would be an online test. So it seems a bit odd that they're going online right now, then in person in 2022 and for a couple of years, and then back to online. Nonetheless, that seems to be what is happening. The other interesting part of this announcement is that it seems timed in a way to preclude big states that are not in the uniform bar exam world. So states like California, Florida, Georgia, to preclude them from trying to force the national conference's hand into an online test in 2022. And what I mean by that is that it's possible, and certainly happened in 2020, Florida just decided to not give the multi-state exam because they were doing an online test, and it was outside the dates that the NCBE was offering. So given that circumstance, it seemed reasonable that states like California or Florida or Georgia or others that were not UBE states might decide to hold their exams online. It looks like what the NCBE was doing was to say before any of those states made that announcement, not so fast. If you're going to go online, you're going to go without the multi-state exam, the MBE, and without the MPT. So that was an interesting decision that they made. Now, obviously, if you're going to give in-person exams, you have to have some time for the logistics and organizing and renting the space and so on. So there certainly was some need to make that announcement early, but it was a surprise that it came out before the administration of the July 2021 exam. And it means now that if you were thinking about taking the exam in July of 2021 or February of 2022, you now have an added factor to consider, which would be travel and the location and taking the test in person versus online. If you're taking the bar exam in a UBE jurisdiction, there is no doubt it will only be in person in February 2022. But if you're taking the exam in California, Florida, Georgia, some other states that are not aligned with the UBE, I would not be completely sure that it'll still be an in-person exam. It may very well be an online test, and we'll see how that plays out in the weeks and months to come. So that's the big news. If you were a July 2021 bar taker and you were considering deferring to February, you now want to be aware that could change the format of the exam that you're taking, and that might be a factor for you positively or negatively. So just some things to think about. As I said, Megan and I will break this down in more detail next week, but we wanted to give you that fast breaking news. I thought that this was also a good time to share a really inspiring and encouraging story. So few people passed the California bar exam in February 2021 that it's almost ridiculous. In a state of 40 million people, to have 1,150 new attorneys is an outrageously small number. The pass rates were very low, and part of the reason was because the time between the release of results from what became the October 2020 California bar and the time to prepare for the February 2021 exam was incredibly short. It was just a few weeks. And so a lot of people opted out of the exam. Only about 3,000 bar takers in California for this test. Normally you'd be looking at 5,000 to 8,000 for that exam. One of those students that took the exam and passed is a student of ours, and her name is Chase, and she is just a ball of fire. She is a lot of fun. I think you're going to really enjoy the interview. She's going to talk about the tools that she used in order to go from failing the exam previously to passing, and it's a great story, and it's inspiring and encouraging, and we wanted to share it with you today because we know that at about this point in the studies, it starts to get pretty tough on people, and it's easy to feel discouraged. And believe me, if anybody could make you feel up and ready to go, it's going to be our guest today. So let's go ahead and jump into this interview with a successful California student. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Takers. And we have an interview I am so excited about. We have a new member of the California Bar. Chase, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. You told me right before we started you got sworn in yesterday, huh?
Yes, I did. There's even a little picture, the judge by the seal. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience.
That is cool. For those that don't know, there were only 1,151 new members of the California Bar that were admitted out of the February 2021 exam. So you're one of those 1,151. How does that feel?
Amazing. You know what? It's the best way to describe this feeling is it's indescribable. Like that, it's such an oxymoron, but it's so true. I cannot express how undescribable I feel. It's impossible to tell you. It's so amazing.
For repeat bar takers, the pass rate was 27%. So that's what you were faced with. Pat yourself on the back, lady. You did something pretty incredible there. And this has been quite a journey for you. If I were going to say that somebody had virtually nothing going right for them at various times during the process, that probably wouldn't be much of an overstatement, would it? You want to tell us a little bit about the journey?
Oh gosh, which one? Where do you want to start? Boyfriend had COVID. I had COVID. I have ADHD, just to throw that in the mix. That's not really anything new, but it's still a little bit difficult. Yeah. Really, I had family members going to jail. I had people in and out of the hospital a lot. It was like if you were watching a soap opera, you can catch up on a soap opera in one episode. You would have had to watch a full week of that soap opera to catch up on my bar exam journey. It was a lot.
And you had taken the exam multiple times before this, correct?
That's correct.
When did you take the exam the first time? Do you remember?
Forever ago. I graduated in 19. I took the February 20, the October 20, this February 21.
And so you had that process of the weird October 2020 bar exam and all the strangeness that went there. And you were coming close, but you weren't quite there. What made you decide to sit for the February exam with such a short window of time to prepare?
Because of the score that I got on the October exam. The one I took before when I did the big box review program, I was doing IRAC, that whole situation. I don't even want to talk about those scores. They weren't pretty, but I switched over. I started using you guys. I love the FLA format. So that's my get down. And I was so close. I was a reread. My actual writing scores were 1459 or something like that. So they were way above passing, but my MBE scores were a little short. And we only had that 100 MBEs that time during the October exam. So I was too close to not keep going right then and just being persistent. And I feel like now I know more law than any lawyer in my town. That's for sure. Because I just stayed gung-ho ready and wanted to get it done in one step after another. But anyway, I took it again because it was still fresh. It was right there and I was so close. I didn't want to lose a bunch by pushing it off.
And I wanted to emphasize that because I think sometimes people get scared away and they get discouraged. They get close and they think, I'm just never going to get there. That was never your attitude. It was always, I can do this. I know I can do it. You saw the growth. You saw what was happening. We're going to talk about some of the tools that you used in our course because you took advantage of a lot of different things. But I think that it's important at the beginning to tell our audience that you just simply didn't let COVID or ADHD or the previous failures or any of those things define you. Is that right?
No, not at all. It was like more of a motivation. Like the way I look at it, and I think that everyone that has gone through law school, we've already done so much. Like we didn't get this far to only come this far. So I don't care how many times you fail, if it's 15 or if it's 5 or if it's 1. You didn't come this far to just come this far. Like you want to pass the bar. And that's just the start of your career. Truly, I knew in my mind, I knew in my heart that I would pass the bar eventually. I couldn't promise you when, but I knew I was going to. It was definitely going to happen. So I just kept pushing through. If it was another fail, because that short window between the October and the results coming out in January and then the February right then, 35 days you had to study in between time. Who cares? Like, why not take it again? If I already know in my head I'm going to pass eventually, might as well try again. And the more times I can try, the better. So I feel like pushing it off would have been a way of doubting myself, I think is how I would put that, because I know I was going to pass. I just didn't know which exam I was going to pass. Like, when were they going to give me the one that I just nailed? And it so happened to be that one.
I think that's great. And I think that's really encouraging to people. Let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that helped you move from not being passing and then being successful on this test. One of them was photo reading. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So photo reading is still an anomaly to me. I'm like, I don't really understand it, but I do because I know the things that I'm actually, so everything you say and everything that is presented to you and you follow in the program is all true. I'm still like, how does this work? But it does. You just have to trust it. It's a full faith thing. Jump in, arms crossed, you're falling in. Like, you just have to go. Because getting really close to the bar exam, both times when I used your program the week prior, that's when you start dreaming about the law and like things you'll just start clicking. Like you'll read something or read a past exam that you didn't even actually study that hard this go around. Like you didn't really study, but you know it. And you're like, okay, that's a good feeling. Like I didn't necessarily study that, but I know the answer to this. Like I got this. So yes. That only hits, but like the week before the exam. So it's not a lot of time for you to like have faith in it. You just have to trust yourself. And now I still use it. It's awesome. Like photo readings, just do what they say.
It's hard to explain. And when people haven't done it, they think it's woo, but it really works. And you have this deeper knowledge. So that was one of the tools. But I think the other thing that was really key for you, at least as I looked at it, is that you worked with our California senior editor, Megan Saya, and worked on your writing and just generally keeping focused on your work. And I know you had these video conferences with Megan, you sent in work, you talked, and Megan would tell me afterwards and said to me going into the exam, Chase is going to pass. She kept telling me as you were going along that she said, she's got it. She's in the zone. She's going to make it happen. She was totally not surprised. Talk a little bit about what those sessions with Megan were like for you, if you would.
So doing another form of writing, most people do IRAC. That's just what people do. It's just a thing. It's like if you're out of law school, you know what IRAC is. If you're taking the bar exam, you know what IRAC is. IRAC and ADHD brain don't mix. Like they hate each other very much. And I cannot find there's no mediator to mend that love or hatred. It's just not going to happen. So starting a new writing format like that, the whole FLA program, but the whole style, it's scary. Again, it's something that's okay, this could go really bad. But if I'm already messing up doing IRAC, what's it going to hurt, really? So you might as well just try. So I did the FLA format kind of by myself. Like I followed the introduction things from part of your basic program. And you get it, but you don't really get it. And you're not sure if you're writing it and you're not sure if it sounds good or if it makes sense. What I can tell you is the first one, I think, what is it? The Janet Jeweler, I think. So Janet Jeweler, that there's a tort. When I wrote it for the first time, it was comfortable writing, like it flowed for me. Like my brain was like following along and staying on cue, which is where my issues are. So it was very easy to write. However, I didn't know if it was good or not. I just knew it felt simple. FLA format, literally, like it soared my writing score. And it's because it makes sense. Like you're so right about it. It makes sense to write that way. And I give you 97% of my passing is because of you. The other 3 is just my stamina. Honestly, but the FLA format soared me for sure. So with Megan and having the one-on-ones with her, she could break down like where I have a problem with time. Timing is a huge issue for me. It always has been my whole life. But timing was big for me when I failed bar. And so Megan literally would walk through and be like, we can cut this out. We can cut this out. We can cut this out. And we would just pick apart my exams to where I was like, okay, that makes sense. Next one I write, I will pay attention to what she just said. And I did. I infiltrated everything that she told me to do. The first time I used FLA, my writing scores were great. Like it was the MVEs that I ended up not passing. And then this time, obviously, I passed.
That's right. And I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that having an objective voice, a coach to help you tighten up and make that work even better really makes a difference. You had a good, solid grasp of FLA, of the writing style that we teach. But I think what Megan was doing was what you described. She was helping you get that writing really as tight as we could get it so that there was less dependence on the multi-state score and give you as much as we could in the writing. It also is a challenge, of course, to take the exam online with the performance tests and the essays. You want to talk a little bit about that, what that experience was like?
Gosh, the first one, that October exam was just, it was mayhem is what it was. So the first time doing PT, it's difficult. It's going to throw you for a loop no matter what. The bar exam in general is going to throw you for a loop. I can't even lie. So it just does. Something's going to hit you and you're going to be like, what? In my case, it was the PT. Not that the PT was hard, but writing it out with the whole online thing and the PDFs, it's hassle. But literally, I feel like I'm being really redundant when I say this, but just listen to Jackson and listen to what Celebration Bar tells you to do. Be calm, cool, and collected when you're in there. Like, I know I seem sporadic right now because I'm a very characterized and flamboyant person, but during the bar, I feel like I literally probably didn't move. And that's good because you can't. You're not allowed to move your head. So focus on that. That works. And you just roll with the punches. If your PDF little thing isn't pulling out, great. Go to the other way to look at it. If your highlighting isn't working, great. Don't highlight or italicize it, underline it. I don't know. There's always another way to handle it. Just handle it. You're going to be a lawyer. Like, you need to be able to handle this kind of stuff. Don't freak yourself out. It's hard. I get that. But everyone else is in the same boat you are. So you just got to be the one that can actually handle their cool. Don't let it disturb you and then ruin the rest of your bar exam if something happens to your computer. Make sure you have a nice computer, at least like newer, whatever, make sure it's all updated, everything works, and you use the program as much as you can, ExamSoft. That doesn't mean that's all going to necessarily work on the day of the exam, but at least gives you some sort of like understanding, muscle memory, where the highlight button is. Just it's the bar exam. Do your work, do your due diligence, and you'll pass eventually. I don't know when, but you will.
Did you like taking the exam online at home as compared to going to a test center?
I do. I do personally, because I hate relying on this whole ADHD thing because I feel like it's a cop out. And so I'm not trying to do that by any means, but it's really overwhelming walking into a room. The first time I took it, I think I was down in the LA area, but it was just a lot. I like being in front of people. I'm a dancer, I'm a ballerina. I like being on stage. I really love to perform. Not necessarily on the bar exam day when you're like trying to focus your mind on something and you have 8,000 people around you. It was just a lot. So I think being at home in my own spot, I know this area, like I am calm. I cannot move here. I feel like I was all over the place sitting in on the bar exam. So for me, it worked.
For anybody, it's distracting to go to the bar exam. I think for somebody with ADHD, it's almost torture. And so in my view, this is a really wonderful way to work through that. Another tool that we offered that you took advantage of was our Abundance for Bar Study Masterclass. You remember going through that webinar? And what was the value or what was the purpose for you in going through that?
It like resets your brain. That's what it does. It's like a reboot, or you're getting like your halfway charged, you're going all the way to full battery. It really just resets you. I remember taking it, and I specifically remember taking it because it was the first time I used you. So what was that? The second time taking the bar exam. This is when COVID was going. We had COVID. I had COVID. Boyfriend had COVID. The world was over. Everyone was miserable, and it was awful. It was like the perfect timing to take this because it is all your mindset. Like it truly is your mindset, and you can change your. I don't remember exactly what it is, but go through it. You'll understand what I'm trying to say here. You are in control of the way your brain works, and you are in control of the way your feelings are and how you handle your feelings. There was something where you told us move somewhere, like stretch or something.
Yeah. We're really just trying to help you get comfortable with your emotions and the stress and the anxiety and be able to be in the right mental framework to be able to study. And I thought for you, that was particularly important because you had such a great attitude, but everything was coming at you. There were so many things going on. It was so difficult. And of course, you're taking the hardest bar exam in the country. Very few people pass. And it's easy to get discouraged and get freaked out. And so what I liked was that you brought this resilience of spirit. But what we needed to do was to tame it a little bit and channel it so it would be really productive for you on the exam.
That's a perfect way of putting it. Nail on the head.
So let's talk a little bit. You've got this very short swing between the October results coming back, sitting for the February exam, that everyone is freaked out about the test and taking it. What is it like for you sitting down then in February online? Now you get the full multi-state 200 questions instead of 100. Did you feel more confident going into that exam? Because most people were feeling less confident because of the timing. But how did it feel to you?
Like I said, I think where my mindset was, it's just another exam I'm going to take. If I fail, I fail. If I don't. So I was, of course, like I make that sound so nonchalant, like no big deal if I fail a bar exam, because no one wants to fail a bar exam. I totally get that. I am a bar failer, so I know the feelings and it sucks. So don't get me wrong when I'm saying that it's no big deal. But I knew that I knew what I was doing. Like I knew that I followed the program. I knew that I knew the law with my writing work, with my work with Megan and the writing. I knew I could write well. So it was just being okay with what I was doing and being calm enough to like put it on paper. You know what you're doing, Chase. You've been practicing and studying this for a really long time. So it was like, I've done the program, I've done the online, I've done the ExamSoft. I know about the 15-minute break thing. You know where you are, you know your computer. So then it's just game on. Bring your A game. It's go time. And so I was confident, but here's the thing. Like when you fail the bar more than once, there's nothing confident about you in a way, but you don't know what the hell they're going to throw at you. And it's subjective. I don't know what grader is going to be happy that day with my exam on one and the other. Like on my reread, I had someone give me on the PT a 60. The other person gave me a 75. Like 15-point difference. Are you kidding? So it is a little subjective with the readers. And it's just, you got to give it a try. That's all you have to do. And because I had that going in, I felt like I was way more calm taking the exam. Like I was in the spot that you want all of your students to be in when they're taking the exam. I know that.
So let's talk about what it meant for you and your boyfriend and your family to go through this process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You're right. I have a very like upbeat, happy-go-lucky, high-spirited person. But it was almost amazing when I actually passed the bar this time. My boyfriend, and mind you, he's all tattooed, big old boy, like manly man. And then my dad, who's 42 years practicing law, nothing can faze him. Those two men in my life cried a week. They're still crying. I haven't even teared up. Like they took it from me. And watching that was almost better than like the actual like passing bar. I'm like, oh my gosh, my poor family and like these poor boys who have been going through this with me this whole time. It means a lot to them, like everyone in your life that you are affecting by this bar exam. It means a lot to people. And I guess I didn't really notice that. I got it, but I didn't really like know the severity of it until I had like my father like bawling like a little baby. And then my boyfriend's like, Van, stop crying. You're gonna make me cry. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, grab a tissue. It's going to be okay. We're like moving on in life, but it's amazing that they're that happy for you. So it made it that much better for me. And my life got to begin. Like I've had my jobs waiting for me. My criminal defense side of the business is we have trial next week. When are you going to come on? Are you going to second chair this? So it's been a lot. And I've had a lot of help with my family, a lot to be able to study as much as I could. I did still work, but I didn't work as much during like times that I wasn't able to. So it just affected everyone. And watching the boys cry like little babies was the best part.
I love that. I love that. It doesn't surprise me at all. I think that one of the things that people need to recognize is that California has 40 million residents, and they only admitted 1,151 people from the exam. I don't even know what the math is. That fraction is ridiculously small. It's the smallest number of people to have passed the Cal Bar in decades, and you're one of them. That must be an extraordinary feeling to realize that you did this thing that so few people were able to do.
I didn't even know until you just told me just now about the numbers. So that's awesome. It really is. Finally.
And we talk about getting your life back, but in a real sense, that really is what happens. You put things on hold, you study, you wait, you work through these things. The whole world has been on hold, obviously, the last year with COVID. And so it must just feel like this rebirth to you to have this opportunity.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. I just gave this little speech when I got sworn in, and it was like real short and sweet, but it was like to like the 6 people that were there watching me get sworn in. I'm like, I thank them. Like, thank you guys. We all just did this. We're the final standing soldiers, and we lost some good soldiers along the way. And I have a couple of friends that stopped taking the bar after they failed once or twice. They're like, no, I'm just not going to take it again, because it's an ego stabber and it makes you feel like crap, and it's a lot and it's expensive and it takes forever. But the 6 that were in there, I'm like, we were on the front lines the whole time too, because these 6 had been like going through it with me, the ups and downs and all arounds. But to be able to stand there and be like, we're the final standing soldiers, we all just passed the California State Bar exam. That feeling, like I said, it's indescribable. It's so amazing. But think of the best day of your life, times it by 5. It's probably where it's probably sitting there. So again, you didn't come this far to only go this far.
And I think that's the advice that a lot of people need to hear. I know there are going to be a lot of folks who've taken and failed the Cal Bar, some of them for decades in cases. And it's certainly tempting to give up. But I wanted them to hear your story, because I think that very often what happens is we start saying and making excuses and saying, things aren't going my way. It's just not breaking right for me. There's a whole lot of problems. And I never heard you use any of those things as excuses. You recognized them. You weren't naive about them. You didn't ignore them. You just said, you know what, I'm going to find the tools to make this happen, and I'm going to do it. And I'm very proud of you. And I know Megan is extremely proud of you and thrilled for you. And I think that the quality of the person you are as a member of our bar is going to be extraordinary, because that's what we need in the bar, are people like you, Chase, who are filled with this spirit and this love of life and this warmth. And you persevered. You did what most people cannot do. You're absolutely right. You're one of the last standing here. And that's got to be just a chilling kind of moment. And I hope that for our audience, that you'll see that it can be done as well, and it's possible to make it happen. Do you have any other advice you'd offer, to those folks, or maybe to your earlier self, about this process?
For the people that are more like me, that are always super, super upbeat, I think we talked about it once, I'm like the duck, on top, I can handle my stress, I'm cool. But underneath, it's, you're going crazy. There's obviously, he said I had a lot going on. Like, I had a stroke. I had this weird eyelash thing where like my eyelashes were growing inside my eyes, so I couldn't see. It was like the weirdest things were happening to me, like physically. And there was so much, if I could list it all, it would take up the entire podcast. So it was just a lot. Just know that I was going through a lot. And I do maintain at least a good like shell. Everyone thinks I'm doing great. So my advice on that, if you're like me in that way, still recognize that you are human and that there's a lot of crap going on right now in your life. And maybe you should take a day, just a day. You don't need to take a week, just a day to reflect on that a little bit. Because I would have not done that like that. It is not in my nature to take a chase day. I just don't do that. But it helps. I would have told myself that the first time. The second time I did do that. I took a chase day. Like, it was like, okay. And there was family stuff going on, like up the yin yang, like it was crazy. So chase days sometimes involved like family/chase days, but leave yourself some space there. You can handle it. And don't be a Debbie Downer. My girlfriend, Deborah, great name, also passed the bar this time. She's Debbie Downer of all Debbie Downers. And I'm like, listen, lady, Linda, listen. Like, I was always like, stop talking about that. You're the one bringing yourself down. No one else is saying it. You are. Like, you're loading your own gun. Like, stop. So just try to maintain positive. You'll pass the bar. If you graduated law school, you'll pass the bar. Just don't know when. But know that you'll pass it eventually. Like I told my dad, I will take the bar until I'm 95 years old if I have to. I will pass that thing. So I knew I was going to pass it. It was never a doubt in my mind. I just didn't know exactly when. And maybe that took off some of the stress of like, right now needs to happen. Right now needs to happen. Or maybe it motivated me more to be like, but I don't really want to take it when I'm 95. So get on with it. I don't know. I can't necessarily tell you exactly because I'm still like in the like flutters of shock that I'm now an attorney at law. I just got sworn in. I'm all good to go. I just try to stay motivated and don't give up. Don't. It's pointless. You did not come this far to only come this far.
That's great. Listen, I'm glad you didn't have to wait till you were 95 to pass the bar. I think you got a lot of productive years ahead of you as a member of the Cal Bar. We're so glad that we could be part of the journey with you. We're proud of you. We're excited for you. I'm just so thrilled and so excited and glad that we could do this interview. I know that there will be people watching who will be like, I can do that. Okay, I'm there. I'm with Chase. And we're going to take a Chase day and then I'm going to get after it. Thank you so much for being with us. And just want to tell all of our audience, look, it is possible. It can be done. And this lady worked through an incredible number of challenges to get there. And you wouldn't give it all back, would you? I mean, for the feeling that you got right now.
No, nothing. Like I would do it over again. That's saying a lot.
You don't want to.
But I would do it for this feeling again. Like it's an amazing feeling.
All right. Great. Thank you again. Congratulations. We're going to sign off and we'll see you again next time with another interview with a successful student. That's our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Chase. I want to remind you that we'll be back next week to talk about these changes in the February 2022 exam. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going on as we get closer to the July 2021 test and update you on any information that we've gotten from around the country on testing or formats or other information. I hope everybody has a great study week. Hope you're doing well, staying healthy. And we thank you so much for joining us and being with us each week as we move along the extra mile. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.